Hello, welcome to the lecture number 4 on the course on Tantra number 1. In this course, we study the book written by Prabhuji, my spiritual master, on the Tantric revelation. The book is called Tantra, Liberation in the World, and this book is dedicated to explain the vision of the Tantric revelation and the many treasures that we got from this approach to spirituality and how we can enrich our life by the wisdom revealed by the Tantric masters. Prabhuji goes deep into the perspective that this revelation brought, how this perspective enriched his own spiritual path and his own message called the Retroprogressive path. Furthermore, there is a lot of history, how the revelation unfolded over the centuries and what are the different luminaries, inspiration really of masters that reveal so unique, high and deep truth, and the offerings that they gave, all the practices that they suggest in order to follow their footsteps. In this institute, the disciples of Prabhuji just try to share our understanding of what we hear from Prabhuji. Of course, Prabhuji's message is a message in which you need to be very active to understand. It's not a matter of hearing and repeating, but it needs to be processed by your own perspective and reflection of the things. So this institute is an opportunity to share my own reflections. I just can tell you what I think about what Prabhuji said. If you want to hear Prabhuji directly, he kindly has many MOOCs and many lectures in which he describes his own experience and his own beautiful teachings that he acquired along his way, really very long and very enriched way, in which he came in contact with so many different religions, philosophies, perspectives. Is very fascinating and I really recommend. But these lectures is an attempt of someone to understand what he teaches and try to apply it. And my purpose is to try to share what I understand from what he writes and how I see that it can benefit those who are on the way. So what we did in the previous lectures, which I recommend really to watch before this one, is to analyze the first. In this course we are analyzing the first section of the book that is called the Tantric Vision, and so far we studied the chapter called the Essence of the Tantric Vision. Tantra has many aspects. It has the philosophical aspect, the theological, the mythological, the historical, but the way that Prabhuji approached this revelation is to try to acquire the vision, the Tantric vision. A revelation is really a transmission of truths given by those who saw. So the vision, the way to see, the retroprogressive path speak about that in order to know truth, you don't need to acquire a set of beliefs or follow some dogmatic proposal, but you need to see. To look, and that's why this revelation is so close, so relevant, because the Tantra suggests you to start from where you are and to look, vision, really to watch where you are in your humanity, in your baby steps towards something that is so much bigger than you, but to accept the stage in which you are and not to aspire to be something in the future in order to know truth. Truth is not future. Future doesn't exist. So it cannot be that in the future you will acquire something that you don't have now. Whatever happened now, if you are aware, so there we look. And this vision, these eyes that the Tantrikas brought, they are really a gift that we can use them and see how they really break so much the status quo of what was the established religion at that time, full of rules and regulations and prohibition and condemnation, and try to do a path of freedom, but not freedom of the ego, not freedom of do whatever your mind dictates, because that, if we look carefully, we will know that freedom is not to do what the mind just brings, because this is to be a slave of the mind. When we're talking about freedom, is a state when the mind doesn't dominate our actions and decisions. So it's the ultimate freedom, that towards that state the Tantra walks and invites us to walk toward that. And for that we need to know our tyrant mind, our slavery, and without condemning, I call it slavery, but it's a really state on the way. It's a path. The path is joyful. It's a path from forgetfulness to remembrance, and the spiritual masters, this is what they come to give. Remember. They don't teach us something that we don't know. It reminds us something that we forgot. But with this loving acceptance, we can be vulnerable to remember and to admit that, yes, I forgot God. Yes, I forgot from where I came. Yes, I totally forgot what I came here to do. And thank you for reminding me. And from this humble stage, we can start walking towards our awakening that is certain, is always there, is as far or as close as we really wish, because it's the same as sleeping. You can continue the dream if you are comfortable, but at some point the dream will be enough and it will be time to awake. So Prabhuji believe in the essence of the human being. You cannot be something different than what you really are, even if you pretend to be someone or something. This illusion is temporary, and ultimately the eternity will prevail. But the reason that we have these luminaries really in the world is to come to show us the path, because sometimes so much so we forgot that we really suffer. We really suffer in this stage of disconnection, and we're 30 for somebody that show us the path. But Prabhuji doesn't say follow me. It's not after followers, but after companions in the way that they are eager to see. And when you show, you don't go blindly with closed eyes and follow, but open your own eyes, and by this guidance find your way, find your path. And the Tantra is a revelation that gives a lot of room for the different levels. Whatever you are, in which stage you are, you can start from where you are, and there will be different practices that are fit for your level. And what we did so far is just to focus on that vision, learn what is the human conditioning, what is the human desire, and what is the attitude of this unity in diversity, this non-dual polarity that the Tantra talks about. In this lecture we are starting to study the chapter number 2 in the section number 1, which is the foundations of Tantra. In this section, Prabhuji starts giving us more background, more philosophical background about this path, which is also important to understand. The human mind has the privilege of being able to communicate by words, by meaning, to give the different sounds. We can pronounce different sounds and give different meaning to the words, and by this is a reminder. It's like an alarm clock in the dream that words can remind us something from the beyond. And this is the way that the Tantrikas convey the message. The revelation is a scriptural revelation, in which the word divine scriptures reveal with this wisdom. It's called the Tantras or the Agamas, and by reading them, they are extremely practical. They're almost, I call it like how to guide to reach enlightenment. Really, it's dialogues, beautiful dialogues between the goddess that wants so much to help humanity and awake humanity and make humanity really happy. We bring upon ourselves this self-inflictive suffering, and the suffering is the ego. This is the source of all quarrel and suffering, and this hyper-identification that we are in a wheel, that we cannot go out from this. This is simply solved. You can see in the saints this joy of the unity. It's unbelievable joy, this unbelievable love that we can feel from within the scriptures, how they're loving entities, that they don't see division. And of course we can feel from Prabhuji, and to take the time and the hassle, really, it doesn't need that, but it's this joy that the self is by nature is giving, is sharing. So in this book, Prabhuji rejoiced by seeing what the Tantrikas sharing in the past, and through him trying to give us an easy way. It's an overwhelming revelation with many scriptures, very encrypted scriptures written for people from other times with other levels of consciousness. Somehow, if everything is evolved, we are kind of going down in our awareness, and we need somebody contemporary like Prabhuji that lives the message and can share the message and give us some hints how to discover by ourselves. He starts this chapter 2 by giving a definition of what is Tantra. Really, in order to understand what is Tantra and the context in which it's revealed, we need to read the entire book, and hopefully we will go along these courses and share different paragraphs that will give us an understanding. Of course, nothing can exchange the really introspective reading of this book, and I really recommend to just meditate upon it, read it, and rejoice it, because it brings this very fresh view, very acceptance view, beautiful way to start. It just gives you the feeling that okay, let's go for it. Let's go for the adventure of knowing myself. Why not? Why I need to live in forgetfulness and shame? There is another way. The way of the Tantra is a way of exploration, acceptance, and actually using all our mundane tendencies as a help, just to, if we can just channel them towards the spiritual search, we will see that they have a lot of power, because this energy, this instinct that push us so much for the sense enjoyment and for the sexual enjoyment, it's a power, the power of the prana, the power of the Shakti that pushes to survival. But we want more than survival, because we are, although we are animals and we need to accept our animalistic nature, we are not only animals. We are animals that start awakening to their true nature and inquiring into what is this duality. Is there something eternal? Is there something real, unchanging? How can I find it? Where can I go? I need to be happy, and happiness is what we look for. And if we look for happiness so much, means that might be somewhere. Otherwise, how will even know that we look for it? And the Tantra says, you just, no matter where you are, you look for happiness. And if you look for happiness in the sensual pleasure, it's because you think it's there. The Tantrikas come here to say it's not in the sensual pleasure, because there is somebody that is enjoying. Okay, so the joy is in the enjoyer and not in the enjoyed, because the enjoyed is temporal and changing, but the enjoyer, the one who is aware of the joy, this is what you really are. So this is the direction of the retroprogressive, to take all the experiences and direct them to search and to self-awareness. So it's an adventure. I invite you to join along this book and this unfoldment of the revelation, and hopefully to get the inspiration to try yourself, because this is an invitation that worthwhile to consider it if we are looking for meaning in life, if we are looking for fulfilling this insatiable black hole that is the emptiness that we feel, the unfitness that we feel. Everything is understanding. We all feel the same. Nobody is different in that. We all go through the same path, and there is a way out, and this is the way of the spirit. And that's why Prabhuji starts this chapter by explaining what is Tantra. Now, it might be surprising that it's very difficult to give a clear definition of what is Tantra. And there are many reasons for that. Tantra, in the perspective of time, we can see that it was a whole happening that started from the 5th century and continue unfolding until, we can say, the 12th century, and this 700 years where so much happened. The scriptures, the divine scripture, were being revealed in different parts of India, by different rishis, seers, tantrika seers, and different sects were formed, the Tantra. But as we will learn later on, it was a secretive revelation. It was really, really esoteric. So when this was happening, it was kept very confidentially. So in the perspective of time, looking backward, we can try to see, okay, what all this have in common, and we come to call it the tantric revelations. But it was really a development that took many shapes and forms and many directions, not only in the different practices that they did, in the different customs, in different revelations, different sampradayas. So we call all this the tantric revelation. But to give a straight and simple definition, it's not easy. The other reason is, as I said, because it was so secret. This was not meant to be a popular revelation, because it works with the most instinctive levels of the human being to kick in this power, these inner powers that we all are equipped with. And this revelation can give a lot of power also to the realized beings. So it needs to be given very carefully from master to disciple. The ways of the Tantra are antinomian. They are not following the orthodox acceptance path. In the orthodoxy of that time, what we call the Vedism or the Brahmanism, it was a very strict path, beautiful path by itself, full of enlightened beings, but it was meant for certain qualified seekers that could follow the path of the Vedas. And this Vedism can easily also be taken as religiosity, as every beautiful path that was given by enlightened beings can be taken to just fortify the order of society, and after all help us to accumulate maybe good karma, to be good spiritual, good religious people, to be maybe good dharma in our dharma, and that's okay, that's beautiful. But that's not what the Tantra aspires to, not at all. It's not to bring order to society. The Tantra aspires for breaking all the conditioning, and for liberation. And sometimes, if our sinful acts, let's call it this way, can stuck us on the way, sometimes our piety can also stuck us on the way. When we feel that we are good religious people, that we are following all the rules, we feel good with ourselves, we are disciplined and we are fulfilling our duties, and we are okay, that's beautiful. But that's not liberation. Liberation is go beyond that one that feels that he is a good citizen, a good devotee, a good spiritual person. As long as you are a person, you are not good. The separation is the problem. The separation, the feeling of being someone, is the source of all suffering. So it's useless. You can devote all your life to be successful, to comply with all the rules that are imposed, even by religious paths. But then the emptiness not necessarily will be disappearing, because as long as you don't merge with your real nature, you will feel so what next? It's so beautiful to see the testimonies of realized beings that they don't say, I achieved something with so much efforts. No, they said, I not need anything, I'm not missing anything, I didn't arrive to anything. I just pay attention of what I always was, what I've always been, and this is my true nature. And it's also your true nature. You just need to pay attention. This is Prabhuji saying over and over. Pay attention. It's in your choice to pay attention. And if you want to pay attention to whatever is temporal and changing, yeah, of course, this is the way we were educated. This is where our mind is attracted to change and temporality. Why? Because our mind is a survival warrior that needs to be very attentive to what changes, because from change comes danger, and from danger can come uncertainty, and the mind is a tool that looks for the certainty. Otherwise you don't have peace of mind. This mind is never in peace, it's always on guard, being ready to attack, to defend, to pursue, to run away. It's full of activity. But there is something that that pays attention to all this happening, that is ever peaceful, ever there, eternally, from ever to ever. And this is where the retroprogressive path is pointing to, that never changes. So it's not something that we need to acquire, it's something that we need to pay attention. So similarly, the way of the Tantra is a way that all this activity, we need to explore it. And in order to explore it, yes, we need to break the rules. And this is what they did. And that's the reason that it couldn't be very public. So the esotericism of the Tantra is what didn't allow us to have very clear definitions of this path back then. And of course, because it works so much with the human body and the human sexuality, because there were so many invasions in India, the statues that were so sensual, the tantric statues, were destroyed. Many holy scriptures were burnt and lost a long time. So when we come to reconstruct this revelation and gives a description or a definition of what it is, we really need to go back in time and try to see how it was from the time that it was created. And honestly, this revelation was not so much appreciated until not long ago, because it was misunderstood in many ways. It was judged as a degraded spiritual path, and there was some shame because the ways of the Tantra is the way that work with many elements of nature, many elements of magic, many elements of sensuality, and consumption of forbidden substances. So it was kind of put aside. Of course, the Tantra, it was merged into Hinduism. Hinduism got many elements of the Tantra. So as a stand-alone revelation, it was difficult to put the division and the line, what is Tantra and what is Vedic, because everything went into the Vedic, what we call today Hinduism. So many elements that were like shameful, they were put aside and kind of neglected. Actually, there were many Western scholars, interestingly enough, that they start paying attention to this tantric revelation and trying to reconstruct the history, the sex, the scriptures, translate many scriptures that were never translated to other languages, so we can learn it academically. And we are really in depth with all the academics that they are dedicating their careers to reconstruct this because we can learn so much about the context. Although Prabhuji is not an historian, although he made such a big research in order to present us the history. Of course, he is interested in the real experience of the Tantrikas. We are living this revelation from inside, not from studying this as an anthropomorphical study of a phenomenon of the human religion, but as the experience of whoever lived this revelation. But it's so helpful to have the context, because by the context of when and where and how and why, we can understand so much better the importance and the effect. Listen, this revelation was a earthquake of spirituality that shook all the existing religions of that time. The Hinduism was deeply influenced by this revelation. This influenced Buddhism, creating a whole new branch of Buddhism. Buddhism, that was a religion that it was abstract. They spoke about shunyata, nothingness, no deities, no God, no soul, no liberation. And suddenly the Tantra come upon, and then we have this beautiful Tantric Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism with so many yantras and diagrams and symbology and beautiful Tibet goddesses that they put the elements of devotion into the Buddhism, creating a very, very powerful path, the path of the Tantric Buddhism, influenced Jainism and so many others that got these Tantric elements as a very big help, as a way to release these locks of the ego, that we need really a lot of power to break free from these chains of the illusion. And the Tantrikas did this and explained this and kindly explained this in scriptures and in commentaries on the scriptures. So what Prabhuji does is to start this chapter with a definition, but wisely he wanted to have a definition of someone who was close to the revelation from that time, because now the historian defined it in many ways, but from the perspective of an historic phenomenon. But he wanted to have the spiritual phenomenon, and that's why he brought to start this chapter a definition of a Tantrika master called Ramakanta, that he lived from the year 950 to the 1000 of the current era. Means he was alive while the revelation was unfolding. And from his perspective, we have this definition of Tantra. What is Tantra? A Tantra is a body of divinely revealed teachings that explain the requirements and obstacles in the practice of worshipping the divine. It also describes the initiation and purification ceremonies needed for tantric practice. These lessons are taught to those who are qualified to pursue the highest and lowest goals of human existence. Ramakanta's commentary on the Sardha Trishati Kalotara 1.1. This is a very rich definition of Tantra. He calls a Tantra, usually he refers to a book, an agama, a revealed scripture. But if we break it down in this definition, we can find the following components, and this is what we're going to study in this lecture. What is Tantra according to Ramakanta? We will take from his definition the elements of religion, of esotericism, of spirituality, of mysticism, and of mystical experiences. So in this section of the definition, he gives us the aspect of religion of Tantra. A Tantra is a body of divinely revealed teachings that explain the requirements and obstacles in the practice of worshipping the divine. In this definition, we find religious elements that Ramakanta uses to define Tantra. It says is divinely revealed. We see here the divine is a set of instruction how to worship the divine. So we see here the element of worship. So is a Tantra religion? This is what it is. So I suggest, in order to answer this question, let's agree on the definition of religion. Now in this lecture I will just give a dictionary definition, encyclopedic definition. I will not go further in how the retroprogressive path defines religion. We will do that in the next lecture when we will study how Prabhuji defines Tantra. But in order to stick to the definition of Ramakanta, let's see what is acceptable definition of religion. Definitions of religion. The belief in the existence of God or gods and the activities that are concerned with the worship of them or in the teachings of a spiritual leader. 2. The belief in or worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. 3. A personal set of institutionalized systems of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. So, is Tantra religion according to these definitions? So in these definitions we see that religion needs to have an element of God, of some power, some controlling power, some transcendental figure, usually personal figure, that is the one who worship and offer our devotion to, and that gives us favors and answer our prayers. So is Tantra religion? So I will say it's also a religion. We see that Ramakanda defined the scriptures as divinely revealed, means that it acknowledges the existence of the divine power that reveals some wisdom through the tantric scriptures to humanity. So there is here a relationship with the God. There is here a lot of worship. Mainly the Tantra is a set of rituals. That's why sometimes it's called the practical aspect of Hinduism, because what this revelation brought is a very, very special type of worship. In the Vedic system of worship, that was more antique, the antique way that we used to worship in the Vedic society, it was more a worship of the forces of nature with the recitation of mantras and hymns, due to the subtle and formless form of divine. Of course, there were a lot of Vedic gods, but the Tantra brought the system of worshipping in a temple, which is a place where they congregate to worship, and the worship of a deity. This is very tantric. And not only that, the very special way of worship is a very symbolical way in which the offerings are related to the five senses, acknowledging that the higher power is the source of our senses. And therefore we offer in return as a gratefulness offering, acknowledging thank you for the gift of the senses in which I can see. So we offer the fire, the power of the light. Thank you for the ability to hear. So we offer the mantras and the bell that give us this experience of music and enjoyment through the music. We offer you the sense of smell. That's why the incense is not so characterized, so tantric ritual. The flowers, we offer the tactile, the touch, in which we offer the fabric, a very nice fabric to the divine. So in a way is to be grateful for the gifts of this dual experience, but acknowledging that you are the source of it, and we offer this back to the divine. So yes, the Tantra has a lot of ritualistic element that we can call them religion, a religious element by this definition. But it's so different, the spirit of Tantra. I don't think that at that time they really saw themselves as religion, but more as lovers of the divine. Those lovers that can break the rules and they love so much, they want this merge so much that they are ready to escape from in the middle of the night and go to the forest to gather together and invoke the divine by this unity, by this Shakti, and they want it to be the embodiments of the divine. They want to bring the divine very close. I will not say that it's religion in the sense that there is a very far and transcendental and unreachable divine power, but the beauty of the Tantra is that the divine dwells in me, within me, but is dormant. And this is the symbolism of the Kundalini, which is a dormant serpent in the base of the spine that is waiting for this awakening. And all these practices, all these pranic breathings and rituals and shaking the status quo of the searching for security that we as egos live, like we are ready not to risk anything. We will not live, but we will not risk. And the Tantra invite us to the risk as an expression of this love that you want so much, you love so much the divine that you cannot resist this attraction. And maybe you are a bit bad boy in the eyes of the established order, but who can judge lovers? Only lovers can understand lovers. It's not this religion of mental belief or mental conviction on external, but it's this power of attraction that I believe we all have, because even if we don't know what we are attracted to, we're always looking for something. So eventually we will find what is our attraction towards, because nothing beside our true nature can really satisfy what we are looking for. This spark of even our insatisfaction can be embraced in Tantra, because your insatisfaction, unhappiness is a sign that you want something else, that you want something different. And this unrest will bring you eventually to the right path. And this will need to be your discovery. It cannot be a belief. No, Tantra is not a set of beliefs. Tantra is a direct experience. It's a real an invitation to experience. Whenever somebody was initiated in the path, it was open for him all the spectrum of the spiritual realms where he can engage and jump into. So that's why it starts by a path of really brave brahmanas, brave seekers, that they were ready to give up their conventional upbringing and go for an adventure of love to the divine. And whoever said, religion is not for me, I'm not this type of person. Okay, in that sense, Tantra is not for that type of person, because it's a path of practice, not of belief and acceptance and repentance and feeling guilty feelings. Yeah, this type of religion that we feel rejection from, that we're very strict, trapped in forbidden and allowed. Okay, that Tantra is not that type of religion. But Tantra has this love for the divine, this acceptance of the divine, this belief that the divine dwells in me, that it's the one, the goddess is the one, is the very blood flowing in my veins, is my breathing, she lives in my senses. All the senses are related to goddesses. It's not that I believe in the divine dwells in me. I just need to awake to this, and this is the path of awakening, the path of Tantra. Nowadays, when we use the word esotericism, it's often related to some New Age practices or some occultism or working with the spirits. But in essence, the word esotericism, it means that it's a knowledge giving only to the initiated. Let's read the definition. Definitions of esotericism. 1. Designed to be understood by a specifically initiated alone. 2. requiring or exhibiting knowledge that is restricted to a small group. Definitely, the tantric revelation was esoteric in nature. This definition of Omkarananda gives us the hint of it. He said the initiation ceremonies and the purification ceremonies, this is what is explained in the Tantras. Why? Because these scriptures were not public. You couldn't reach them. You couldn't just get them and read them. You need to hear them from the lips of the spiritual master that initiate you in this knowledge. And there were many reasons for this to be esoteric. The Tantra meant to unleash a very strong powers that are tied and repressed in the human potential. And all the education of society, it makes us unify. It pushes towards a unification or conformism of the status quo. But our potential is so much stronger. But in order to unleash this and not to create a chaos in society, we need to teach this knowledge to those who are really meant to do good in the world, to do good to themselves, not for self-destruction and not for provocation, but for unification, because this is ultimately the direction that we are aiming to unify, to go back to the unity. But for that purpose, we need that this knowledge will be used for the power of good. And that's one of the reasons that it was so esoteric, because it's, this is what they explain, that whoever walked this path, they did acquire mystical powers that can be used for any purpose and needs to be given to those who are qualified and purified for being exposed to this knowledge. And the Tantras, when I say the Tantras, I mean the Agamas, I mean the scriptures, they explain what is the path of the initiation. What are the qualifications required? What are the obstacles? What are the steps that the aspirants need to go through in order to be accepted in a kaula? Kaula were the families. Kaula, the word kaula is group or family, that they were gathering around an enlightened master belonging to certain sampradaya in which certain agama was taught and practiced, because the agamas are not really something to sit and study, but to practice. They were giving mantras, practices, like secret formulas that unleash different powers of the human being, and group practices. And as the tantrika advanced in his level, so it was crossing more lines, being part of more rituals and engaging his senses, intoxication, wine, and sexual intercourse. So all these practices that they are so releasing the human hidden powers, they need to be done in a very controlled environment with a lot of responsibility and with guidance. And this is a reason why a master that engages in teaching this wisdom needs to choose carefully whoever is qualified to go through this process and make sure that he goes through the purification process. What is the purification process? Is to purify the egoic intentions, because the ego is there in everything we approach. And when we come to spirituality, very often we come to add something to our value, ego value, and with this contamination of the egoic motivation, we cannot approach this really. We will make either bad use of it or we will drop on the way, because every spiritual path at certain moment will be anti-ego, otherwise it's not a spiritual path. So in the moment that it will become uncomfortable, so I will leave the path, and then there is a lot of pain in leaving the path, also for the teacher and also for the student, and for all this secrecy, because this is knowledge that it cannot be really understood by the mainstream, because you need to be a lover to understand why you do all these antinomian practices and what it does. You need to experience to understand. And this knowledge didn't supposed to be reaching the wrong hands that can be used to manipulate people, and also to be judged and ultimately forbidden, which did happen, that ultimately it was needed to be more and more secret and kept really very, very confidential. So it will not be forbidden, because there were very clear rules of what can be done and cannot be done. And this was the importance of keeping this confidential. And this Tantras gives the initiation ceremonies, which was very central, because initiation is something very interesting in Tantra. Usually you speak about initiation as a beginning, right? Initiate something, it's to begin something. So if you are accepted to a university, let's say the initiation or the acceptance process after you fulfill the qualifications for being accepted, so you start to study until you finalize your degree, and then you get a diploma at the end of the path. But in Tantra, it's not that way. In the Tantra, in the moment of the initiation, which is a very powerful ritual, you are shown everything. This is how powerful were the Tantric initiation. The spiritual master, Shiva, embodied in the spiritual enlightened master, shows to the initiated all the Rudra's world. This is how they describe it. And then the aspirant is exposed to the end of the path. You already see everything. They said it's an immediate and instant enlightenment. And then it comes back to make the walk, to walk the path toward that being his state of being, his constant state of being. So you need to make sure that the aspirant is really ready for that, because it will be very break his balance if it's not really qualified for that. So what are the qualifications, what are the purification rituals, and what is the initiation? All this is the esoteric aspect of Tantra, and this is what Ramakanda indicates in his definition. Is spirituality the same as religion? Many people nowadays say, I am a spiritual person, or I have a spiritual interest, but I'm not interested in religion. So what do we mean when we say spirituality? Let's see the definitions. Definitions of spirituality. 1. The quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. 2. Difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is a specific set of organized beliefs and practices. Spirituality is more of an individual practice and has to do with having a sense of peace and purpose. 3. It also relates to the process of developing beliefs around the meaning of life and connection to others. So it's more popular nowadays to be spiritual. We know that religion is declining in popularity, although for so many centuries religion was part and parcel of the human experience. But now we are more in forgetfulness, in atheism, worshipping the discoveries of science, worshipping the philosophy, and looking for the truth in other directions. Now, spirituality is more an internal path. That's why the aspect of the Ramakanta definition that's set for tantric practices, we can find there the aspect of spirituality. That is a set of practices that one makes in his own path, maybe practices that you find appropriate for your own development, and in order to find the meaning of life, find the spirit, unopposed to the material pursuit, internalize maybe more inner experiences, and looking for finding tools for a better peaceful life, peace of mind. All this is related to spirituality. We know meditation is very popular, different bodily practices which were very embedded also in the tantric practices, like working with the inner anatomy, with the energetic, with the subtle anatomy, the chakras, the energies, etc. So all these aspects, yes, definitely Tantra has so many spiritual elements. But I will say that Tantra is also religion and spirituality, because it comes from a very authoritative source. It's not I make my own combination of spirituality and I make what it's, because there is some danger in this spirituality, as we call it nowadays. The danger is that your search will lack the vitamins of the authoritative, of the bona fide sources. If you make your own decisions, which is beautiful, Prabhuji is all for freedom and all for the individual search, and not to be like following some set of beliefs, of dogmas that are usually embedded with the fear of punishments. Oh, this is not at all the spirit of the teachings of Prabhuji, of course not of the teachings of Tantra. But together with that, the retroprogressive path says that you need to respect the retro. Although you need to go towards progress, your own path, your own critical thinking and evaluation and integration in the very experience of being a human, you need to give respect to the retro, the tradition, what was done before. If you throw to the garbage as everything as antique and archaic, and we are modern seekers, we now look, you might not, okay? It's really very personal, but there is a risk, and Prabhuji feels the need to warn us. There is a risk that you will get stuck in your egoic choices, and that's why this path was necessarily being a condition, was to surrender to the guidance of a spiritual master, because you might choose the tasted that they are good for your that they're sweet for your taste, but then you might reject the nutritious elements of the spiritual diet, that they might be a bit sour for the ego, but we are in a path of going beyond the ego, and it's very difficult that the ego will go beyond the ego by its own voluntary renouncement. And that's the purification process of the Tantra is so important, to give this to dare to go, because the ego by definition likes to stay in the known. This is our comfort zone. This is what it is to be stuck in our conditioning, no matter how bad our conditioning is, in our habits, to habituate in our habits. This is the ego. And the truth is not within our habits. Those who see and discover says that you need to go beyond. And this is the initiation, and this is the purification, and this is the tantric practice that you might be attractive, or usually there were a lot of tantric practices that you were by definition rejected from them. Sometimes I read the definition, I said, oh my God, those words, so brave, how they could engage in this kind of practices that they get rejection, because they needed to engage in the going beyond the rejections, and that's very difficult because you've rejected so much. So you need to be very committed to this path for it to be beneficial. So I really don't recommend, and if you get to study these lectures, you might be interested in the good taste of Tantra, or the intriguing or the sensual aspect of it, but be careful, because it can be just an excuse for more forgetfulness. So it will not be a very good use of this book or these explanations. If you are very egoic attracted to this, to look for a spiritual reason to do it is to be deeper into the darkness, and it's a pity, because there is so much light beyond this that awaits us. So to use the very things that they are meant to enlighten our darkness in order to go deeper into the darkness, it will be really a pity. But a free choice, as we all have choice. Just this book tries to bring something from the awakening place, to warn us that not to use this for more sensual enjoyment, because this is not the purpose. The purpose is to go beyond all attraction and rejections. And this is when you will, and how you will do that? Just to be present and to be aware of these attractions, not to just fulfill them in the name of Tantra. But if you are there, in order to go beyond them, you need to be present, because otherwise you are trapped in this habit, lack of awareness. And the tool that Prabhuji teaches us to enlighten our search is the light of awareness that we'll all have. So we cannot say, you're aware because you hear these words. So no excuses, but you really need to direct yourself towards the exit of this darkness. I compare this sometimes with, let's say that you really want to go to Mars. You have a dream and you want to arrive to Mars. This is your dream. And I ask you, so what are your plans? How we are going to do it? He said, I will invent the fire, and then I will invent the aeronautical rules, and then I will construct the spaceship, and then I will. And why you need to invent the rules? Why? It's already invented, the fire, and there is already spaceships, and there are already people that went to space, and there is NASA and there is SpaceX. Why don't you go and check what others did to arrive to Mars, if this is really your dream? And you say, no. I am not following the beliefs of others. I want this to be my own choice, my own experience, my own endeavor. I will get there by my self-efforts, because this is my path and this is my choice. Okay, it's fine and it's nice, but I will question your motives. If you really want to arrive to Mars, or you want to have a dream and have a hope that one day you will arrive, but in fact I know that you will never arrive, because in order to really arrive, you need to have the humbleness to see what others did in that direction, how they arrived. And if you know about somebody that did land in Mars, of course you will go and have the humbleness to ask how you did it. Can you guide me? Can you take me there? And if you want to do your own formula of spirituality, maybe what you enjoy is to have a dream that is totally unreachable. So if your search is honest and is sincere, and we need a lot of sincerity for this path, so you will have the humbleness to surrender to a guide that will guide you there, if you find somebody that walk before you and can take you there. So the spirituality of Tantra, yes, but take it as the whole context of it, because the purpose is to do something much more difficult than to arrive to Mars, is that to go beyond the dualistic illusion. We are talking about truth, about eternity, not about the next planet in the solar system. That's nothing. That's still in the dualistic plane. We're talking about eternity, about the whole. We cannot grasp these concepts with the mind. But those who achieve there, they tell us that the very material of the beyond, it's Sat Chidananda, is eternity, is existence, is bliss, deep bliss, like unbearable bliss almost, we cannot even imagine. And we can see this like shining from the Holy Scriptures, and of course shining from a being like Prabhuji that lives in this state, unbelievable, beautiful, moving, like this is all what I want. But in order to really reach there, we need to leave so many things, and the path is not easy. I can testify it's not easy. We are very close in our attachment to the known, very afraid to the unknown, and this path needs to open yourself and dare and be courageous to dare to know what is beyond the ego. So Tantra is esoteric, Tantra is a religious path, Tantra is full of spirituality. Mysticism. These lessons are taught to those who are qualified to pursue the highest goals of human existence. Let's define mysticism. Definitions of mysticism. 1. Belief that union with or absorption into the deity or absolute, or the spiritual apprehension of knowledge beyond the intellect, may be attained through contemplation and self-surrender. 2. The experience of mystical union or direct communion with ultimate reality. 3. The belief that direct knowledge of God, spiritual truth, or ultimate reality can be attained through subjective experience. 4. Mysticism is the idea and the practice of achieving unity with God. 5. The idea that we can have direct experience of God. This may come in the form of dreams, visions, meditation, creativity. 6. The different spiritual path of mystical path can be Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Vedanta, Sufism. Mysticism is the essence, is the state of unity that is the highest goal. Like Omkarananda said, this path is to achieve the highest goal of human existence. The human existence is the experience of separation, and it's unbearable because we are aware of this separation, we are at unease with this separation, and we want unity. Now, we not always know how and where to look for it, but we all look for it. Even if you don't search in the spirit, if you don't experience this mystical state of unity, even if you never search in this direction, this is what our nature look for. We go for unity, and we look for unity wherever we can find it. And the state of union is the state of pure bliss, where the Tantra leads you to taste some of it. That's why it brings you to these orgasmic states of union. And every union, symbolizing the union of male and female, is an experience of the unity with the divine. Mystics of all times were those lovers of God that they couldn't follow the rules. Mystics are not religious people. Mystics are those who are in the continuous experience of the awareness of this unity, and from there they speak, they share, they dance, they do poetry, they do art, they reveal scriptures, and if they are kind enough, they also guide others that they aspire for the same. So mysticism is everything, and Prabhuji is an Avadhuta mystic. This is what he is, and from there he writes and shares and actually glorifies the mystics of all times by going deeper into all the paths that open the light of the spirit and invite us to this experience. So this is the highest goal that the Tantra aspires, not less than the mysticism, the unity, the constant state of pure bliss. And I think it's not a path of belief. You don't need to believe in something because we talk about the mystic experience. It's not to sit and applaud those who are reached the experience. It's not a path that worship the saints of the past, but glorify them, get inspired from them, and dare to go yourself through the path. It's not to stay here and say, I am sinful, but the saints, they were different. No, it's a path for you. This is a very practical path that invites you to walk through the path. The retroprogressive path is a path for you that starts where you are, without throwing away the past, whatever brought you to where you are. This is you respect, and from there you progress. So it's not to believe and to say I'm not like this saint, I am a sinner. Because the Tantra meets you in the sin. You are a sinner, fantastic, let's explore that. Let's meet you there where you are. You are attracted to this world, fantastic. What is this world? At least if you're attracted to try to explain, you will eventually discover that this is Shakti. That's why she's so attractive. She's beautiful, she's sensual, she's irresistible. This is Shiva is also so attractive to Shakti because of that. And then if you are aware, this is the Shiva, you are attracted to the mundane, this is the Shakti. So unite with this, be so present, so total in your enjoyment that break the division that separates you. There is not enjoyer and enjoyed, but there is one experience. Everything is in the field of experience. So the Tantra invites you to be very present in the experience of whatever you want to experience. That's why I try to say that nothing is forbidden or allowed. Go for this experience, of course, in a ritualistic, it's not a Levantine age and an hedonist path, yes, it's just with the guidance of someone that help you to channel this attraction and to use it as a force of advancement. Sometimes in Tantra that said that you are so fallen that you are in the floor, just fallen, you are like a sinner. But you can use the floor to raise up by pushing against the floor and raising above the floor. So you can use everything, every state that you are, every attraction that you have, everything that happened in the field of your experience, to pay attention to it. So the light, the purification, the light of the awareness is to help you to take, instead of closing the eyes and feeling shame of your tendencies, and therefore you don't see them, and therefore they control you, because if you don't see whatever you don't see, it's behind you, it's controlling you. You look at these tendencies in the eyes, you experience, you play with them, and you find the limit of them, and then you will eventually see that, okay, they are full of promises, but they don't give me the unity that I really aspire for. The unity is when you go beyond all these passions, because the unity is found in the very peaceful and unchanging background of every experience. So they are the masters push us to find what is in the background of all experiences. And either it was the Kabbalah with the Jewish language and Jewish magic, and it was the Gnosticism, the Vedanta, and of course the Tantra is full of mysticism. The higher goals of the human experience is to achieve this unity with the whole. Mystical experiences, lowest goals of human existence. It's very surprising to find in the definition of Ramakanta that this path help you to achieve the lowest goals of spirit of the human experience. Lowest goals, why do I need a path that help me to reach the lowest goals? So what that means the lowest goals. In the context of Tantra, the mystical powers that this revelation brings you, it was considered the lowest goals. It's the powers that the seeker is equipped with in order to break free from his conditioning. So there were 6 powers. This is mystical powers that we will study more in depth in future courses, in which the practices of Tantra equipped the seeker with these powers. So let's define mystical powers. Definitions of mystical experiences. Mystical experiences are those peculiar states of consciousness in which the individual discovers himself or herself to be one continuous process with God, with the universe, with the ground of being, with the ultimate and eternal reality. So a mystical experience is a brief moment of being exposed to the reality. And this was a gift that it was given to the seekers because of the conviction that in the moment that you see and you taste, you will not be satisfied with anything lower than that. So the mystical experience is a brief experience. That's what it's an experience. No, it's not a continuous state of mystic union, but it's a brief moment of experience. And the Tantra definitely look for moments of experience, of mystical experience, and that's the lowest goal in the context of this definition, because the spiritual tantric masters believe that if you are able to expose the seeker to a brief experience of it, then his soul alone will know to make this discrimination of what brings you closer to this state of unity and what make you farther away. That is the Shakti path that is so known in this path, in which the master channel the Shakti, the power of creation, through his awareness to the seeker, and lift him by his grace, right? By his, with the condition that he's open and exposed, of course, and willing this awareness, because you need to lower your defense and trust that the master can lift you up and take you to a brief travel to the transcendental. And there you are exposed to this, to know, okay, there is such a state, and this is what I truly want behind my attractions to the world, behind my attraction to enjoyment. This is the ultimate joy. We can see in the Shakti path that sometimes it's very difficult to bear for the seeker this mystical experience, and we often see screaming or shaking or fainting or becoming stiff, like I witnessed this so many times, and is in the state in which the body is not open. All the chakras, all the nadis, the Ida and Pingala, they are not open in order to absorb this potent. It's like you put in an electrical device too much electricity and it burns, explodes, because it's too much. It's too much. So this is when the body is shaking. But the experience, the mystical experience, is this state in which you can taste one drop of the divine bliss and then know how to look for it, where to look for it, because you develop this attraction, and this is the very, very, very big bliss and grace that the masters gave. And this is usually the moment of initiation. It's very charged with this gift that we get of seeing something, and then nothing else can really, and you are really ready. And in the moment that you taste love, you really don't compromise with anything less than that. You just will be ready to give your life for it. And the moment you taste something from this sanctity, you understand that everything else is less. So it's easy to renounce to things that are not as valuable as this experience. And surprisingly enough, the sense enjoyment, it's pale next to the ultimate ecstasies of mysticism. So you give it up naturally, and this is the purpose of Tantra, not to give it by repression or by violence with yourself or shame or blame, but giving it naturally in the moment that you taste something from the higher taste, from the ultimate goals of life. And this is the beauty of this path that leads you gently to there. And if your soul is ready, and if you are doing your little effort, you will get like tenfold the blessings in return, because more than the soul wants to arrive, like the divinity wants to embrace, reunite. This is the path of forgetting and remembrance. So in order to finalize this lecture, I want to bring you a very surprising definition of mysticism. The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical. It is the power of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. Albert Einstein. Yes, Albert Einstein. Who will expect that, right? He is the symbol of the human ingenuity, of the genius of the human intellect, of the science, of the effort to understand reality through logical thinking. Who will expect that a person like this will share with us his view of what is this mystical experience? So clearly, geniuses like this, if they are humble enough, they recognize that whatever was channeled through them is not their own discoveries. The human intellect cannot get that high. But yes, if it's exposed, he can be at awe. This is, he said, it's just wrapped in awe in front of this beauty. And when you have this beauty, maybe you will see something from the secrets that they're hidden for whoever is just looking low and being in the routine, in the forgetfulness. But if you have this wonder, this is by itself, it's a gift to be in wonder. Prabhuji says, I don't teach anything. I don't expect you to change anything. But if there is something that my books can give you, is the sense of wonder. Because if you have wonder, you don't need anything else. Trust, surrender to the wonder, and the wonder will lead you to the source. Because the fact of looking at everything and taking this for granted is this painful veil of the mind that picture everything, makes it a status quo, doesn't see change. Just you look at the movie of your mind, and you forget that the world is unfolding. Every minute is a new creation, is a new miracle. You take it as, another day, another routine. You're really trapped in this routine when the life is never the same 2 days. And you are not, because you are not looking at the life, you're looking at the mind and trapped in the known of the mind. So you miss life and you miss the one. And what Albert Einstein said, if you are not at all, you are like death. Because life is this wonder. Life is this mystical emotion that it can move you, it can make you be. It's sort of, Prabhuji teaches us Greek philosophy. And in Greek philosophies, they explain that the source of philosophy is the sense of wonder. This is from their philosophy come. It's not a mental effort to explain it. It's even very proud to think that with our small mind we can explain the miracle of the truth. But the wonder that a child has when he's encountering these new and fresh, amazing, colorful experiences, so innocent, and what he experienced, joy, it's just joyful. And what we want, if it's not this joy of the new, of the fresh, of the awe, of the rapture of being in front of this beauty of dance of Shiva and Shakti unfolding in front of us, in us, through us, and with us. So the Tantra is an invitation for that. I feel Prabhuji just invite us. This is what he said. You are like a child walking small steps and falling. And I feel Prabhuji is like a father that tells you, come my child, I promise you there is so much joy here, so much beauty, so much love. But you need to walk your path, and I cannot walk instead of you. You need to develop your muscle, your strengths, your will, and dare to walk the path and follow. And I'm here, I will hold you, I will encourage you, I will lift you up if you fall, I will try to inspire you, but you need to come by yourself. I cannot convince you, it will not be yours. All this path must be yours. And it's joyful, and it's beautiful, and it's promising, and it's inspiring. And all what you need is to just leave the security of the floor and lift up, and don't be afraid to fall, because there is a world where the world of walking on your both feet and walk in the world, but you need to leave the known, leave the mind, and dare to walk. And Prabhuji says, come, 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 come. You can do it. You will do it. You will eventually do it. It's just whenever you decide, you have the power, you have the awareness, and the awareness will lead you to your true nature. So we are immensely in debt for those who were so brave to wake up, to awake. They were so blessed to be able to see and open the doors for those who follow, and to live this in scriptures and in books like the book of Prabhuji, that he explains so cryptic explanation that make us available for us to read and to follow and to be inspired. So thank you, Prabhuji, for this book, and thank you for the opportunity to share my excitement about what you teach, and I hope that it can benefit all of you. So we will meet in the next lecture. Jaya Prabhuji.